G'day and welcome back to Stiffy's Workshop. Today I am mopping up my mess. So I ran out of fuel in the orange 145 the other day and have totally clogged up my fuel filter down there in the engine bay. Now I've got a nice fresh one, super cheap auto part number SCF4F. Pretty small, but it's nice that it's clear so you can see how much muck you got. Now you're probably not going to need most of these tools, but you're probably going to need a screwdriver to get to your hose clamps. Straight off the boat, I've got a cable tied sort of to the washer support, so dig it out of there and then you get really good access to the hose clamps. So I've got both a flathead and a flathead or Phillips head hose clamp to make it nice and easy for sort of emergency roadside repairs. And if the fuel filter were to break while driving, I could totally bypass and just run without a filter. So the pump does have its own sort of integrated little mini filter, and then the carbies have float bowls, so they can store a little bit of rubbish as well. So to get home kind of thing, it's no big deal. Now, first thing, I'm going to take off the hose that leads to the fuel tank, and I'm going to do that for a few reasons, mainly so that I can sort of drain the system up forward. And that's just going to make things a bit easier and going to make a bit less mess and waste less fuel, and also potentially prime a little bit faster when we're trying to get the system primed again afterwards. There's a fair bit of rubbish still in this fuel tank. When I first got the car, I probably should have taken the fuel tank out, but I didn't. So when I first got it, I had two of these filters in line, and the first one would fill, lots of times, and the second one would fill, every month or so. And pretty much every fuel tank I was replacing at least one of them until, we're at the point now where this one's been in there for over a year, and until I ran out of fuel the other day, it hadn't sucked up much rubbish at all until now. So I ran out, and what typically happens is there's a lot of rubbish on the bottom of your classic car tank if you've never cleaned it. Just over years it collects it, or you get a bit of rusting if you've had it sitting around for a long time, which is certainly the case with this car. And you can see all that rubbish coming out of it as I'm emptying out the thing there. So you definitely don't want that in your fuel system, especially if you've got injection. That is bad news for your injectors, but not very good for your carbies either. So best to keep all that dirt and disgusting rubbish out of there. So if you've got a carby car, probably a good idea to get a fuel filter. Not necessarily these plastic ones. They are renowned for sort of failing in high heat environments. The Volvo's engine bay doesn't get that hot, or mustn't get that hot, because they haven't broken. So apparently they are pretty much a surefire fire risk if you've got a Beetle or something like that with an air-cooled engine. So obviously spec a filter suitable for your use case. Now what I'm going to do here is start the car up. And I did have the car running recently, not too recently that everything's hot, but crucially that I'm able to still have some fuel in the float bowls, and everything's still going to start back up, because it takes a little while to reprime the system, especially where I've got the pump here, or the filter here, because it's in the highest position. So it's kind of like an airlock until the pump self-primes itself again. And as it turns out, these cam-driven fuel pumps are very, very good at self-priming. It just takes a little while. And you can see here it's starting to fill up in the bottom, just as I'm giving the engine a bit of revs. And then soaks through the filter medium. And now everything's happy. It's got a little bit of fuel sitting in there, and everything's going to work for us. So having a look at the fuel filter is kind of like a bit of a special extra, I suppose. You can just see all the, all that rubbish that the fuel filter has been collecting for us and protecting from going into the engine. I'll open them up, and you can just see it's already clogged. So it can't have been running very well with this sort of fuel delivery. Let's have a look inside. And having a bit of a sneak peek, you can see just that huge layer of crusty stuff. It didn't look that bad before I took it out. But you can see now it's just that huge layer of sludge, and that would have been clogging all the filter media. in this tiny little filter. It's only a small filter, so you really, for the size of the car, it's really a bit underkill, but I do change them quite regularly, more regularly than I would change one on any of my other cars probably, because they're, tiny little filters, probably designed for a motorcycle or something like that. There you go. Cleaned out. Clean your fuel filter, or add one if you've got a classic car, or consider it. Thanks a lot. See ya.